सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्वी नावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम् ॐ गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः ॐ सरस्वती नमस्तुभ्यं वरदे कामरूपिणी विद्यारम्भं करिष्यामि सिद्धिर्भवतु मे सदा कार्पण्यदोषोपहत स्वभावः पृच्छामि त्वां धर्मसमुदचेताः यच्छ्रेयस्यान्निश्चितं ब्रूहि तन्मे शिष्यस्तेऽहं शाधिमां त्वां प्रपन्नम् ॐ वाङ्मे मनसि प्रतिष्ठिता मनो मे वाचि प्रतिष्ठितम् आविरावीर्म एधि वेदस्य म आनिस्तः श्रुतमे मा प्रहासीः अनेन अधीतेन अहोरात्रान् सन्दधामि ऋतं वदिष्यामि सत्यं वदिष्यामि तन्मामवतु तद्वक्तारमवतु अवतु माम् अवतु वक्तारम् अवतु वक्तारम् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृणुयाम देवाः भद्रं पश्येमाक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैः स्तुष्टुवाङ्गमं वाङ्गं सस्तनुभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति न पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति न साक्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्दधातु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ अहं वृक्षस्य रेरिव कीर्तिपृष्ठं गिरेरिव ऊर्ध्वपवित्रो वाजिनीव स्वमृतमस्मि द्रविणं सवर्चसं सुमेधा अमृतोक्षितः इति त्रिशङ्कोर्वेदानुवचनम् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः
Amazing. Thank you so much, Rituj. So I guess we're starting at Shloka number 34. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So Prerna, do you want to do the reading for 34? Prerna, they can't see you.
Maybe Kavita, you can read with us. Vijay, you want to read?
No, recap. You have mentioned last
Recap?
time it is whoever is not attending who will have to do the recap, right?
Oh,
I did, but I wasn't sure if everybody would be prepared for that. So I was going to repeat it again today to start next time. But I'm very happy if you're able to recap. That would be amazing.
Yeah.
Sanchita
Oh.
has actually prepared, and I had forgotten. I warned her yesterday, you have to send me so that if Tuina asks, I'm going to read it. I'm going to So she is like completely, she went in and did step by step. I just wanted to mention that.
See, that's
So-
what the homework's already happened. Bhagwan,
Yeah.
you've already taken care of stuff. That's amazing.
So did Kavita, right? With all the punishments. He said I was doing a service. It's God save only. I am a messenger. Still, she shot me.
Very nice, very nice.
So
I wasn't gonna drop this on you suddenly today, but I'm very happy to see there has been preparation. That's already the work's done.
Yeah.
So we'll do
Well,
recap 5 minutes or 4 5 minutes. Okay, it's 10:36 till 10:41.
but let them go do it.
Okay,
3-minute recap.
cool.
Yeah, 28 to 33.
Hmm.
Arjun started off with the scary part of dissolution which was happening. The army and the soldiers from both the sides are entering into mouth of Lord himself, and he in a Vishwarupa Darsana, and then like he was getting scared about it. Um, what is happening is like basically whether it is good, bad, everything goes back to the originator, right? And why the scare? It is because of ego. Ego in him, the body conscious in him is giving him this scare. But the enlightened typically understand. So there is a comparison or an example that has been given. For good people, it is river water merging with ocean. For the other side of it, it is the worm falling in the fire of light. So that is the way the moth is falling in the light. So that is the way it is. So the enlightened understands and then wanted to go back to the source, like the Nadi. And whoever is under influence of desires, ashnas, and have all the suffering and will fall like a moth in the light. So the Saranagati or complete surrender with the dissolution of ego will make the path to moksha, essentially. And so like Nadi, we will have to become like givers to take the path to Swag. But Maya, including the time, is created by God. Why this? It is all, even with all the Divya Drishti, Arjuna is unable to comprehend who the God is. He is going back asking the God again. Why? Because is we are bound to think from time and space. So even that falls under the God. So now God is playing a role of annihilator. So everything is, including time, is getting annihilated. So that is the way it is. So we'll have to understand. So the most beautiful part of last session was everything is already been done by God. Perform our duty as an instrument of God. So that should be our key, right? Without how we can do a work without thinking that I'm doing it, this is the way, right? Like everything has already been done, prepared, good, bad, anything that is happening, we'll have to dedicate the result to the God. Only performance on duty is our this thing. It is not for fame. We'll have to win the glory, which is our birthright. So in the pathway, we will hit with desire, anger, greed. Those are the real enemies, which is what we need to take care of. And even that will be taken care. The only way, the only desire we should have is like the good people, which is the Nadi merging into the ocean. We will have to have the desire of dissolving into the God.
Perfect.
And observing and understanding the vikas is the only thing that we need to take care. Means if I have anything of that sort, like why I'm being bad or why I'm getting angry or whatever it is, right? Like whatever I carry personally, we'll just have to observe and leave it to the God. So that's a way to attend to it. And one final thing, like always, even if we are a good person, think always that you are the agent of the God. That's it.
Very nice, very nice. Thank you for the recap, Vijay. That was very well done.
Thank you.
And so we start rolling that way. So from next class onwards as well, we'll have one person doing the recap. And as I said, from next class onwards, people who have not attended the class are the ones who will actually who will probably get called out. But that's not a given. So I might just call out on somebody who's actually attended the class too. So be prepared. Okay, Shlok 34. Let's start with Sanchita. Sanchita, you read this?
Now the Lord names the principal warriors of the Kaurava armies.
Karpanyadosha. Okay. Dronam cha Bhishmam cha Jayadratham cha.
Dronam cha Bhishmam cha Jayadratam cha.
Karnam tathanyaapi yodhaviran.
Karnam tathanya napi yodhaviran.
Maya hatastvam jahima vyatishta.
Maya hatasvam jahima vyatishta.
Yudhyasva jetasi rane sapatnan.
Yudhyashvajeta shirane sapatnan.
The first part, Dronam cha Bhishmam cha Jayadratham cha, is Drona, Bhishma and Jayadrath. Second part, Karnam Tathanyaapi Yodhviran, Karna and other brave warriors. The third one, Maya Hatastvam Jahima Vyatishta, already been slain by me. They have already been slain by me. You may kill them without the slightest compunction. Vyatishta. Right? Without the slightest compunction. That's your third one. Fourth, Yudhyasva jetasi rane sapatnan, fight, and you shall conquer your enemies.
Drona, Bhishma, Jayadratha, Karna, and other brave warriors have already been slain by me. You may kill them without the slightest compunction. Fight, and you shall conquer your enemies. The entities typified by the name of warriors. In this shloka, names of some warriors have been given as they occur in the text of Mahabharata, of which the Holy Gita is a part. In the beginning of this great work, Maharshi Vedavyasa has explicitly defined the purpose of narration of Mahabharata to be an amplification of the terse concepts of the Vedas for the benefit of the common man. As such, it is a highly rewarding experience to delve into the inner meanings of the terms used in the narrative. The names occurring in this shloka are explained below.
So just a quick pause here. So there are two layers here to this particular shloka, right? And I think Vijay touched upon it as well in his summary, where he says that the results have already happened. They've already been slayed by God. This is just a medium. Arjun is just being given an opportunity to be the medium to do God's work, right? Now that's what the shloka means at the first layer. But at the second layer, what this means is each of the characters of Gita, right, or of Mahabharata that we read, they are characters and qualities within us. So when we read about what each one of these characters and qualities mean, Bhagwanji is saying that those things that you need to rise above have already been slain by him. He's already has all the tools to help you possess, to rise above your ego, to rise above your senses, to rise above your desires. All of that is already in place. We just have been chosen as the medium to go and practice that. And that's why we have the Gita in our hands. So when we read this from an external form, it's important for us to internalize it and bring it back to this is all within me, right?
Dronacharya. In the Mahabharata, he is said to have been born from the pot in which fire is lighted for the performance of yajnas. The thoughts purified by the fire of knowledge give rise to the discernment symbolized by him as the teacher of the princes of Hastinapur. Bhishma, he is said to be born of the river Ganga, which symbolizes the stream of knowledge, and to be the incarnation of the effulgent Vasu named Dyau. In Shloka 28 of chapter 3, the entities evolved from primal nature and forming the basis of creation include the ego element. This is the distinguishing faculty which gives rise to the sense of one thing being different from another. Bhishma is symbolic of this entity.
So in this, it makes it quite clear, right? That Bhishma represents the ego and he's already been slain by Bhagwanji. And now we need to find the Bhishma inside of us and rise above that. Use his strength, use his faculty and his divinity to rise above the ego that exists within us.
But more importantly, for Arjun, what do they represent, right? Bhishma consciousness, Drona consciousness, they both have a certain type of, there's a certain quality of those consciousness which exists within us. And we had discussed it in the past. But for this particular shlok, what we need to focus on, what is being told here is that Dronacharya and Bhishma, they represent Arjun's moh. Okay, attachment, which is what he needs to slay. And this is a moh that Arjun wasn't even aware of, which is when he had said in the beginning of Mahabharata that take me in here and show me who are the people who've come to fight me, right? He was full of ego, Arjun. And then Bhagwanji could have taken the Rath and placed it anywhere, right? But he specifically took it and placed it in between the Rath of Bhishma and Drona. Because when he saw them is when that whole story started, is when he came face to face with his own attachments and he's like, oh my God. And those attachments were debilitating attachments, something he wasn't even aware of at any one point of time, right? He wasn't aware that he has that deep-seated, debilitating attachment that will prevent him from doing a duty. In that moment, that attachment came to fore, and then that is where his growth started. Okay. Now, but both these entities are, whatever they represent, end of the day, they are sattva in nature. Correct? Dronacharya was the teacher of the princes of Hastinapur, right? And he is said to be born from the pot in which fire is lighted for performance of yagyas. So he's a very, very evolved form of thought. This is a thought process. This consciousness is a thought process that has gone through a lot of churning, a lot of tap, a lot of yagya. It has gone through the fire of tap. And it has got purified. So it is sattvic thoughts. Okay. And Bhishma is a sattvic ego. A sattvic ego that is not thinking about himself, has moved beyond his selfish interests and is doing things for others. Right? Bhishma's life is all about for taking care of whoever sits on this throne, right? He's not thinking about himself. He gave up everything, every comfort of his own self, his creature comforts, his own mental, spiritual, whatever comforts to take care of someone else. So it's an ego that is also sattvic in nature. Now, this is where you understand why we always keep saying that you have to leave the sattva behind. Remember in last class, there was a massive discussion as to like why we need to leave sattva behind. Because sattva also binds. So sattva ego, sattva thoughts, also you develop an attachment to them. Like Arjun has developed attachment to the sattvic thoughts represented by Drona consciousness and sattvic actions that are represented by Bhishma. And why does sattva create attachment? Because there's a sense of happiness that comes with it. You do something good for somebody else, it makes you happy. Now you're attached to that whole action of doing something good for someone else. You do puja, sattvic action, but you develop a certain amount of attachment to that also because it gives you a certain sense of peace. Now you develop attachment to that also. If somebody comes and disturbs that time of the day or that action of puja, tries to come in and disturb, your helper comes, your children come, somebody, your neighbor visits, you get irritated. You get upset with them. Why are you doing this to me? Right? So sattva also creates attachment. And this is the kind of attachment that Arjun is now becoming aware of. Okay, that's why you need to ultimately first, until we get to that level, first do only sattvic actions, do coming from sattvic thoughts, so that so that at least it is sattva that's in the driver's seat and not the rajas or tamas. If tamas was in the driving seat, you will do all things that are absolutely wrong. Jo Ved Puran mein nishedh hai, stuff that we say, don't do it, you will do all of that thing. And the ulti buddhi is going to justify even that with all kinds of very, very smart ideas as to why this is absolutely the right thing to do. Okay, your buddhi is completely ulti. Your intellect is completely like absolutely opposite, right? That's your tamas being in the driver's seat. Rajas being in the driver's seat, very close to being like sliding over into tamas, because Rajoguni Bhav is constantly being attached to certain outcomes. And the moment you don't get a certain outcome, you immediately get upset, angry, whatever, and then you start doing things that will get you to that end goal that you are so attached to. Okay. Sattva being in the driver's seat, at least you will do the right actions. At least your intellect will tell you this is right, this is wrong, don't do this, right? So you will do actions, you will have the right thoughts, but it will also bind you. Like Arjun was bound to Dronacharya and Bhishma. And at some point of time, this will also prevent you from doing your duty. That is why ultimately we have to move beyond sattva too at some point of time. When once we are there, then we have to leave that also. So you climb to the top of the staircase, and even at the top of the staircase, then you have to leave even that staircase to get to Gunatit. Okay. So that's Dronacharya and Bhishma. Let's move ahead.
Jayadratha. In the story of Mahabharata, he is shown to be a warrior of the Kaurava army. Arjuna has taken a vow to kill him to avenge the killing of his son, Abhimanyu. Jayadratha typifies the feeling of fear of death termed Avinivesha in the Yoga Darshana, which is one of the kleshas or sufferings. Karna, he is shown as a warrior with merit equal to that of Arjuna. He typifies the attachment to and zeal for performance of duties. All these four entities are formidable indeed, but their association with Duryodhana turns them into still more powerful instruments of ego, obstructing self-realization by riveting the attention on worldly attainments. In this shloka, the Lord...
One thing here, right? Jayadath and Karna. So now you can see that when Bhagwanji is saying that I've already slain your enemies, he's slain your enemies that are inside of you, right? So one is Moh, okay? Moh, two, Tamas, Rajas, and even Sattvic that we've understood. The second big fear is fear of death, which propels us all the time. Jayadratha is that fear of death. He represents fear of death, the consciousness that creates that. And that is why everything we do is, now fear of death is not just actual fear of death, okay, that one time that we will actually die as organism. The fear of death is constantly propelling us all the time. When you have a sense of when you have a certain position on a topic, and there is somebody else who has an opposite position on the same topic, and they try and tell you why their thing is true, that whole when you stop listening and you get into a space of argument or debate where all you're trying to do is to prove to the other person why your point is correct, it is Jayadratha consciousness. Because accepting someone else's point of view and killing your own point of view is equivalent to death to your ego. The more strongly you identify with a thought process, with an emotion, with a philosophy, the higher your sense of death is going to be to leave that. And that is why we then become fanatics, because we have not gotten over Jayadratha consciousness. So you see that, for example, if you're upset, if you're angry, then you will continue to do things to spread anger around you. You will say mean things, you will say provocative things without even meaning to, which will make other people around you angry, because it is your anger that is trying to survive by not just staying within you, but by propagating itself into others around you. Similarly, if you are happy, then that sense of happiness, when a happy person walks into a room and with a big smile, they tend to lighten up others as well, right? So emotions have a sense of propagation and have a sense of like they want to survive too. Every emotion, negative or positive, right? And similarly, your thought process, you get attached to an idea of a religion or a thought process, which is where this is right, this is wrong. We do this all the time. Our way of life, our way of thinking, our way of behavior is absolutely right. The other person is wrong. when we are unable to rise beyond that, we are unable to empathize with the other party, is because of Jayadrat consciousness. Because we identify so strongly with a thought process and action or way of being or way of life that it will be death to us if we let it go. And we have to let it go by overcoming this Jayadrat consciousness inside of us. So it's not just about death of a living organism, it is death of an idea, it's a death of our roles, our death of our manyataएं that we hold on to, which we think are the right way to think, be, behave, whatever.
And they all work with each other in combination on a daily basis when we perform, right? Starting with Karan, which represents our attachment to duty and work and the results that we do. All of that will fuel the Jayadrat consciousness. It will be attached with our ego, and it's a vicious cycle.
Yeah.
Right?
Karna in this one represents our fear of someone else being better than us. Okay, so Karna is
which will always be the case.
So Karna is a person who has shown that of equal ability to Arjun, right? So in this particular one, what we are showing here is Arjun's fear of someone else being better than me. Okay, so instead of trying to be Uttam, we try to be Shresht. When I get into a competitive zone and I'm trying to be better than everybody else. Okay, outer game versus an inner game. Being Uttam is an inner game where you're trying to be a better person today than you were yesterday. You're trying to be a better person in this moment than you were in the past moment. That's being Uttam. Maya Maryada Purushottam Ram. He's never called Shresht because he is internally focused. His job is inside, right? Whereas we are trying to be in a space of Shresht. Can I better this person and that person, that person? We are constantly, when we are focused outside, we are trying to be Shresht. That consciousness is Karna consciousness, because you always, that whole concept of like, not being good enough. Good enough from what? Good enough from a perspective of others. And then that whole concept of competition, uske paas ye hai, uske paas wo hai, 20 years of service, you have the alumni meeting and all you're doing is judging who has reached what in their lives. That's the concept of Shresht, which is again a major source of suffering. So Jayadrat, Karn, Dronacharya, Bhishma, all of these are sources of major suffering for us. And we have to conquer over them to get to a space of bliss and happiness. And Bhagwanji is saying what? Arjun, do not be afraid. Get up and fight. Yuddha kar. And conquer over your enemies. And then what? Win the glory that is naturally yours. Which is what he said in the last shloka, right? Shloka 33. Win the glory that is naturally yours, which will come to you because of performance of your duties as an instrument of the Lord. Okay? And he says, I have already killed them. All you need to now do, which means what? All of us will get to him eventually. This is called Kram Mukti. Kram Mukti. You will get Mukti. You will get freedom through a natural Kram. Even if you don't do anything, you don't do any of this action, eventually there is Kram Mukti to all of us. You remember we had talked about how Bhagwanji is the greatest gambler when he threw us out there? He has put those guardrails which will eventually lead us back to him no matter what. Who we are, where we are being, eventually Kram Mukti will happen. But Kram Mukti is a very long path. And what Gita is telling us is that you have an alternative, which is Jivan Mukti. Jivan Mukti path is where you become aware, use your intellect, align yourself to Vedas consciously, and consciously cleanse yourself. So you will have a much faster path. So he's telling you, go with the Jivan Mukti, shorter path to bliss, rather than Kram Mukti, which will eventually get you there, but over a very long period of time. Right? So you will get there. All of us will get there. Whether rote, padte, girte, cheekte, whatever, we will get there. Okay, that's his promise. Now it's a matter of how we want to get there. Through the path of Jivan Mukti or through the path of Kram Mukti.
All these,
Go ahead.
Yeah. All these four entities are formidable indeed, but their association with Duryodhana turns them into still more powerful instruments of the ego, obstructing self-realization by riveting the attention on worldly attainments. In this shloka, the Lord assures Arjuna that they had already been killed by him, meaning thereby that these entities are not the natural attributes of the self, which is pure and supreme consciousness. As such, they stand dissolved in the Lord, as shown in the foregoing shlokas.
So the only other thing to add here and to remember always is the whole journey that we're doing is we're trying to move from unreal to real. Right? And in all of this, he's trying to say is try focusing on deciphering what is real in every act that you do. And when you start deciphering to look for that truth, look for the real, automatically you'll start shedding that, you know what, I actually want to get rid of my ego. I actually want to get rid of my desires because I realize they're not real. But that's what he's also trying to highlight here is look for the pure and look for the supreme consciousness. That's the only thing that is real. Once you believe that, once you start looking for it, everything else will shed away because I've already shed it away. But if you focus on the unreal, then nobody can help you.
Smita, will you read with us?
Sanjay tells Dhritarashtra the condition of Arjun on hearing these words of Sri Krishna.
Sanjay Uvacha.
Sanjay Uvacha.
कार्पण्यदोषोपहतः एथ श्रुत्वा वचनं केशवस्य
एतच्छ्रुत्वा वचनं केशवस्य
कृताञ्जलिर्वेपमानः किरीटी
मानः किरीटी
नमस्कृत्वा भूय एवाह कृष्णम्
नमस्कृत्वा भूय एव कृष्णम्
सगद्गदं भीतः प्रणम्य
सगद्गदं भीत प्रणम्य.
Sanjay said, the first one, Etha Shrutva Vachanam Keshavasya. On hearing these words of Sri Krishna, Keshav, Kritanjalir Vepamana Kirita, the crowned one. Okay. The crowned one is no, wait a minute. Namaskritva Bhuya Evaha Krishnam is Sadgatam Bhita Pranamya is prostrating himself is where. Okay. So this is a bit mixed up. So that's why it's not exact words. It's not straight away lines. So Kritanjalir Vepmanaha is prostrating himself. Okay. Namaskritva is when he is
Choking voice.
Naini Namaskritva is different. Bhuya Eva Krishnam is trembling and bowing. Yes. Bhuya is trembling. Namaskritva is bowing. Sa Gad Gadam Bhita Pranamya is he's again addressing in a choking voice and overcome by fear.
So Bhita means overcome.
Bhita is overcome by fear. Sa Gad Gadam is he's overwhelmed. So he's talking in a choking voice. And Namaskritva is when you're going down. Evaha Krishnam, he's again addressing Sri Krishna. It's not straightforward.
Sanjaya said, on hearing these words of Keshav, Sri Krishna, the crowned one, Arjun, trembling and bowing, again addressed Sri Krishna in a choking voice, prostrating himself and overcome by fear. The conditions of Arjun. In this shlok, several adjectives have been used to denote the condition of Arjun. By referring to him as the crowned one, Sanjay indicates the merit, symbolically represented by a crown, of a person who pursues a discipline for self-realization with zeal and singleness of purpose. His trembling refers to his feeling of astonishment on beholding the cosmic form. Bowing denotes humility. His choking voice shows the fullness of his heart with gratitude for the immense mercy of the Lord and letting him experience the supreme bliss of realizing the twin aspects of the Lord. one with attributes and the other without them, both at one place. His prostration before the Lord is indicative of self-surrender. His fear is on account of the realization that the illusory work in which he had enjoyed pleasures and undergone sufferings was nothing but a mere passing appearance with no reality.
This is a beautiful shloka, right? And I think one of the things we've always said in the beginning of this chapter as well is you can only experience God. You can only experience love. And this shloka also highlights that it's not when you experience something, you experience it with your full being. And it reflects in that form that it comes out. And I think in this explanation, he's beautifully explained every single adjective and its associated meaning. Right?
And again, now who's the crowned one? The crowned one is one who has been chosen to receive the blessings of the God. Somebody who's been chosen to have the revelation of the truth to him, right? And who's the crowned one? How do you become the crowned prince? Is somebody who has singleness of purpose and works on it with zeal. Singleness of purpose is what? Nishchayatmika buddhi. Nishchayatmika buddhi, that only has one single purpose. So we are not constantly going after, today I need A, then B, then C, then D. No, it is one buddhi that only tells that genie, I just want that one thing. Right? You tell your mind only one thing. Your mind is a genie that will give you whatever you ask for. The reason we are not able to manifest is because our mind does not have singleness of purpose. Today we want A, after 5 seconds you want B, then after 10 seconds I'm thinking of C and D. Right? Malaysia. So we are constantly going after our, we are 60,000 thoughts, and our mind keeps going after those 60,000 thoughts. Now flitting from here to there. So we are a magpie. When we have Nishchayatmika buddhi, then my mind only has a singleness of purpose, and then that genie knows this is the only thing I need. When you do that, you become a crowned prince, like Arjun. Then you become worthy of being the recipient. And what does Nishchayatmika buddhi do? Nishchayatmika buddhi will make sure that you follow a certain discipline, no matter what. Man kar raha hai, nahi kar raha hai, rag hai, dvesh hai. If you're able to get past those rag, dvesh, then you're beginning to control your senses. You're beginning to control your mind. You're beginning to get down to the task of like, this is what needs to be done. I will do it. It's only then when you have reached that stage and you become that crown prince, you will know you've become the crown prince because the guru will arrive in your life as well. Okay? A guru will come by himself into your life. And when a guru takes over your life, then you know that moksha will be yours. Because guru is Bhagwanji, who is living on earth and doing God's work on earth. He is God himself. But for a guru to come in your life, you first have to be ready for the guru. Because when he comes in, he is going to take all your weird senses of who you are and throw them into the bin. And you have to allow him to do it. If you don't allow him, that means you're not ready. What is the job? What will he do when he comes in there? He'll have nothing to do. So he will not come. Which means that you have to have the ability to follow a certain discipline. We are doing all these anushtans for what? For developing that sense of discipline so that we can be ready for the guru to arrive who will then help us get past. Okay. So that's the crowning. And then we talked about he is, and then what are the other things that a crown prince does? He is full of humility. Vidya dadati vinayam. If you truly understand, then this should not lead to a sense of superiority in you. True knowledge will never lead to a sense of superiority. True knowledge will cause you to have a lot of humility, to know how less you actually know and how much you need to do further work on yourself. Right? I think somebody in I don't know whether it was our class or whether it was some other group where I saw this message 2 days ago, which was phenomenal, right? And very relevant here. Little bit of science takes you away from God, and a lot of science brings you closer to God, which is exactly what Einstein used to say as well. He used to say that the more you understand science, the closer you get to God. And a week ago, I was actually talking to a doctor and we were discussing stem cells. We were discussing stem cell research and its applications in this world. And it was interesting that he was telling me, he basically said that, look, we are already able to generate limbs and stuff, right? Organs and all we are able to generate using stem cells. It's a matter of time before an entire human body we will be able to generate. And then it's a matter of just transferring consciousness from one body to another. So this is when he was talking about stem cells and longevity and the research in that. And I found it really interesting that this is a Western scientist, PhD guy who holds 20 patents in his name, who's never touched Gita in his life. And he was describing that we generate a body just like any other thing, like a cloth. And you transfer consciousness, was the word he used, from one body to another. So that means body is not you. That consciousness is not you. And this is a scientist with 20 PhD with 20 patents on his name is telling me like this. That's where science is. And I asked him, so it's like something like Avatar. He said, yeah, Avatar is not too far off. Right? So I found that pretty interesting.
So in short, none of us will have to work on losing weight. We'll just keep changing bodies.
And that's exactly how we very quickly turn from inwards to outwards.
But we smile, we joke.
We really miss this look Tuhina would give you because this, the side glare kind of thing in the last few classes wasn't there.
No. The side. देख लोग हमारे पीछे क्या बात करते हैं पीठ पीछे
जो reality है वो reality है. So humility, right? Vidya dadati vinayam. What are the other things? That this person is choking voice, fullness of heart with gratitude, right? So this is a person who is Bharat, jiska bharan poshan ho gaya hai, right? He does not have any more sense of abhav, right? So a person who does not have abhav and has fullness of heart has what? He has a lot of gratitude. Okay, there's always, so we are operating from a space of gratitude. We are operating from a space of fullness. That is the second quality of such a person, right? Humility, operating from a space of fullness, of gratitude. And then self-surrender, which is what I was talking about, right? Self-surrender to Bhagwanji, to Guru. Self-surrender means you stop using your brain. You stop arguing about things, right? Doesn't mean that you don't ask questions, but you ask questions not from a cavilling or doubting capacity, but you ask from a space of understanding how to walk the path.
Just to clarify, stop using your brain here refers to focus on implementing the principles.
Yeah, rather than questioning the principles.
Don't use the brain to question the principles. Have the humility that I do not know. And the scriptures which have stood the test of time for thousands and thousands of years certainly know more about life than me of 30, 40 years.
And so I need to use my brain to ask questions on how to implement them better. Why am I not able to implement them? What is going wrong? What did I do? How do I feel? Really explore ourselves and understand what's going on inside. You really have to sharpen your intellect, but sharpen your intellect to ask question yourself. Swadhyay. Use it for Swadhyay. Very, very important. Okay. And finally, it is a person who really understands that what is right, what is the truth and what is untruth. He understands that this world is completely illusory, and now he's really fearful. Okay, so now his fear has changed. Right now, you see that the fear is there, but fear has changed. The quality of fear has changed. His first fear was on account of ego, where he was afraid that, when he was seeing all the good and the bad go into Bhagwanji, he found it a scary phenomena, right? Because now it means that there is death, there is Jayadratha, right? Which he's unable to go past. Now that he's gone past Jayadratha, when Bhagwanji says, Jayadratha is there and I've killed him, move on. Now his fear is, oh my goodness, that realization, oh my goodness, what was I basing my entire life on? How illusory, how false it was on which I was leading my life. Now he's fearful of that illusory sense and fearful of going back to that life. It's like getting to the edge of the cliff and then opening your eyes and realizing, oh my God, one more step and I would have fallen off. Now that is where fear has transformed itself. So fear is made by Bhagwan Ji. It is there for a reason. It is a divine quality to have when used correctly, like everything else. All vibhutis that we have, all feelings that we have, all VVGPs we have, we can use them. If we use them correctly, then they are assets. As an example, fear can be debilitating and can stop us from doing our duty, or it can be a great marker for us to know when we are walking the right path, when we are not. So all the vibhutis, all VVGPs, all emotions, when they are misdirected, can become a liability. But when directed correctly, can be an asset on this journey. The very things that can liberate me can also tie me down further. The same Maya can liberate me and the same Maya can tie me down. Depends on whether I have Nishchayatmika Buddhi or not. Okay? Okay. Kakuli, you'll read next.
Impelled by these mixed feelings, Arjun says,
Arjun Uvacha.
Arjun Uvacha.
We keep forgetting this tune. Karpanyadosha.
Sthane.
Asthane Hrishikesha Tava Prakirtaya.
Sthane Rishikesha Tava Prakirtaya.
Jagat Prahasya. Jagat
Jagat
Prahasyatyanu cha.
Jagat Prahis Jagat Pras Prahisyathyanu Rajyate cha.
Very nice. Rakshansi bhitani disho dravanti.
Rakshamsi Vitani Disho Dravanti.
Sarve namasyanti cha siddha sangha.
Sarve Namasyati cha Siddha Sangha.
So, first line, Sthane Hrishikesh Tava Prakirtaya. O Hrishikesh, it is but proper. Okay, it is but proper. That's your first line. Then second one, Jagat Prahashyatyu, Jagat Prahashyatya Nurajyate. The world delights in and adores the singing of your praises. That's your second line. Rakshasi bhitani drisho dravanti. The Rakshasas fly in all directions out of fear. Okay, bhitani, out of fear. Fourth is Sarve namasyanti cha siddha sangha, and the siddhas bow down to you. That's fourth.
O Rishikesha, it is but proper that the world delights in and adores the singing of your praises. The Rakshasas fly in all directions out of fear, and the Siddhas bow down to you. The effect of beholding the cosmic form of the Lord. Arjuna recounts that the world is attracted towards singing the praises of the Lord and feeling delight in them. Ordinarily, the mind of a person is all the time engaged in pursuing the path of serving his selfish ends. But once the vision of the Lord is seen, the mind is turned towards the singing of the Lord's praises. Furthermore, the devilish properties of the person take to their heels as soon as he has a vision of the Lord. The perfect being pay his obeisance for his mercy.
So, this can best be experienced when we just finished satsang. If you listen to a bhajan for an hour, or you're in a satsang like a Gita class, and you've just finished it, you're feeling peaceful, you've done your swadhyaya, you're feeling peaceful. What do you feel? You feel that peace. If something negative comes to you also, it is so easy for you to tackle and deal with it. It bounces off you almost, right? And that same thing might happen to you end of the day, 6 p.m. after a long day of work, and you'll find yourself reacting to it, right? This is the power of having Bhagwanji seated in your mind. This is the power of you having Nam Jap. Because as he's in the mind, automatically it gives you the energy to keep the rest at bay. But not having him centered there, you're making space for somebody else. You're making space for samsara.
This is exactly what I was telling you today morning, right? And I was telling you the observations, you know. I was just telling Abhinav today morning when we were discussing, I was telling him that if the last thing I read at night is Ramcharitmanas, when I'm doing the reading of that, if that's the last thing I read, I have the best sleep. And then it doesn't matter whether I sleep for 4 hours or 6 hours, I always wake up extremely fresh, and I don't wake up before I need to wake up. Okay. Similarly, the day I'm able to do my exercise in the morning and puja in the morning before I get out, like that's like my recipe. Like if I get these 2-3 things right, morning you wake up, you do your puja, you do your exercise, and then I do my I'm more observant about what I'm eating, what I'm not eating, where I'm spending time with. I make sure that I the night when I, instead of watching Netflix, I'm doing Ramcharitmanas ki reading, I do my Sham ki puja. I told him, like, if I get these few things right in my day, then I am the most at calm and peace, and I see that effect on me in every way. Right? I was just sharing that with him, and this is exactly what is being talked about here. Right, at the level that I am at, this is very important for me at the moment. Okay. And it's saying that when the vision of the Lord is seen, so for me at this point of time, all those activities help me get a vision of the Lord. It helps me get back to, it's a major reminder of, for my nishchaya, for my buddhi to be more nishchayatmika, right? The moment I do that, then the devilish properties will take to their heels, right? And I have a much better alignment towards what I should be doing, towards my duties, right? Which then, Anuska, what is the side effect of that? That I have calm and peace, I have bliss. So I am calmer, I'm happier, I sleep much better. These are all side effects, which is basically the swarg that we talk about, right? The 7 loks that you get to. So this is a very direct experience I have as to like what I need to do. And for me, it's like, did I tick this off? Did I tick this off? If I did, then I already know, right? I have to do these activities to get to that goal. Literally, like, this is exactly what I was telling you today morning.
Ritu, do you have a question?
Yeah, not a question, just a sharing with what the power of Nam Jap. As in for me, when I drive, earlier my reaction to traffic jams used to be just always just cursing, why am I stuck in this situation, what it is, and spending so much time and wasting time. Now with my counter while I'm driving, I think it's just Nam Jap just comes automatically. So that's the whole thing of, as you were discussing about keeping that at bay, the thing of just cursing about the situation or the VVGP that I am in, and just making it negative, the situation, rather than just taking it as an opportunity that God has given me more time to be just sitting in a car, so I can use it to build on my namja, build on my malas, and try to catch up for the day as well. And now it just comes, it's like a default setting in me that I just keep going Hare Ram, Hare Ram. So that way it's quite powerful. So I just wanted to share that.
That's such a beautiful sharing and such a relatable sharing for all of us. And that's what you realize is a glimpse of what moksha can be. Then no matter what situation comes up, which is a very accepted situation to be frustrated in, you can still find peace and purpose. Amazing, amazing, amazing.
Exactly. Exactly what Bhagwanji is saying. The moment we have vision of the Lord, all these devilish things will go away. Exactly what you said right now, right? Beautiful. Okay. The next one. Kavita, you'll read with us?
Now Arjuna sings the praise of the Lord.
कस्माच्च तेन नरे कस्माच्च तेन नमरेन्महात्मन्
कस्माच्च तेन नमरेन्महात्मन्
गरीयसे ब्रह्मणोऽप्यादिकर्त्रे
गरीयसे ब्रह्मणोऽप्यादिकर्त्रे
अनन्तदेवेश जगन्निवास
अनन्तदेवेश जगन्निवास
त्वमक्षरं सत्सत्तत्परं यत्
त्वमक्षरं सतसत्तत्परं यत्
कस्माच्च तेन नमेरन् is, and why should they not bow down to you, O Mahatman? That's the first one. Second, Gariyase Brahmanopyadikratre, you are greater than the greatest. You are greater than the greatest and the primal cause even of the creator. That's the second one. Third, Ananta Devesh Jagannivas, O infinite being, O God of gods, O abode of the universe. And the fourth one, Tumaksharam Sat Satta Tatparam Yat. You are imperishable. You are beyond the manifest and the unmanifest.
And why should they not bow down to you, O Mahatman? You are greater than the greatest and the primal cause even of the creator. O infinite being, O God of gods, O abode of the universe, you are imperishable. You are beyond the manifest and the unmanifest. The transcendent Lord. Arjuna says that disappearance of the devilish forces and obedience shown to him by the perfected ones is quite understandable. For even the creator of the universe has his origin in the creative urge of the Lord. The Lord alone is the imperishable self. All that is manifest and all that is unmanifest, waiting for being manifest, owe their origins to him.
Right? So this is quite straightforward. Right? He's just singing praises to Bhagwanji.
And we'll continue.
Yeah.
Vijay?
Vijay, you will read with us?
Yes. Continuing the singing of his glory, Arjuna says,
Tvamadideva Purusha Puranaha
Vamadideva Purusha Puranas
Tvamasya Vishwasya Param Nidhanam
Tvamasya Vishwasya Param Nidhanam
Vetasi Vedyam Cha Param Cha Dhama
Vetasi Vedyam Cha Param Cha Dama
Tvaya Tatam Vishwam Ananta Rupa
Tvaya Tatam Vishwa Manam Vishwa Mananta Rupa
Vishwam Ananta Rupa.
Vishwam Ananta Rupa.
Yeah. Okay. First one.
You are, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Tvam Adidevaha Purusha Puranaha. You are the supreme God and the eternal primal being. Second, Tvamasya Vishwasya Param Nidhanam. You are the ultimate support of this world. The third one, Vetasi Vedyam Cha Param Cha Dhama. You are the knower as well as the only entity that is worth knowing. You are the supreme abode of all. Fourth is Tvaya Tatam Vishwam Anantarupa. You are immanent in all forms of this universe, O Anantarupa.
You are the supreme God and the eternal primal being. You are the ultimate support for this world. You are the knower as well as the only entity worth knowing. You are supreme abode of all. You are immanent in all forms of the universe. O Anantarupa. The Lord, his aspect with adjuncts. Here Arjuna sings praises of the Lord, his aspect with adjuncts. The word used to denote them are explained below. Supreme God. Being supreme self, he is origination of even the creator. Being conditioned by his own creative urge, his own self-function as creator and as such. He is origination of the creator. Thus, he is supreme God. Eternal primal being. The Lord is eternity itself. The sense of existence springs from the sense of eternity and it manifests itself in different forms. It endows all forms with a sense of being. Lord is thus eternal primal being, ultimate support. The world is ever changing, but it owes all its shapes to the basic support of Lord as its external substratum. The knower and the known. The power of cognition is not separate from self, who is pure consciousness. Consciousness is not adjunct of the Lord, but the Lord Himself. He is manifest in all that is to be known. As such, He is the knower as well as the only entity worth knowing. Supreme abode. The cognition of all thoughts, feelings, objects of universe is in fact cognition of different manifestation of one reality. As such, he is the entity in whom the entire universe abides. He is thus supreme abode, eminent in all. Apart from their cognition, the entire universe of thoughts, feelings, objects is nothing but manifestation of Lord. As such, he pervades all.
So this is a shloka in which he basically is rehashing, in a way, everything that we've learned so far in chapter 8, chapter 9, chapter 10, right? Like the greatest open secret. But the way he's given this, shared his understanding back with Bhagwan Ji, and that's his way of showing his love. कि आपने जो पढ़ाया है, I have understood. Now that I've experienced it, I can actually put it back in words for you, right? So this is the step by step that he's doing. And it goes from point 1 to point 6, where the very first point, he's saying you are the originator and you're the creator of everything. So every gross planet, stars, everything that you see, I understand that a creation stems from you, right? The second thing he says is everything that is temporary has to reside in something permanent. And that permanence is only you. You are the eternal being. Everything else known is temporary. So you are the eternal primal being, which means you are the permanent, that in which all of us show up. The third, everything that this world sustains itself, right? We know now it's ever changing. And it's ever changing, but with your support. You are the ultimate support to this entire creation. So you not only created it, you are not, it's not only being reflected within you, but you are also the one that is maintaining it. You are the one that is in charge of everything that is happening there. The fourth, which is the most important for us, is you are the knower and you are the known. When he says you are the knower, everything that we experience shows up in him. The beauty that we have in this body is because of the consciousness that exists right now in the body. That beauty goes away, that consciousness goes away, this becomes a dead body, which is never pretty, no matter how physically attractive that might be. Right? So, and everything that we experience because of him. Everything is a vibhuti. So now he's going subtler. So everything we do is for him. Everything we experience is him experiencing it. And everything that is to be known in this world is him, his divinity. That's what we learned in chapter 9 as well. The greatest open secret is Bhagwan Ji is everywhere. But ultimate moksha is being able to see it everywhere. Right? And who is seeing it? It's the Jivatma, which is him. Right? So we are literally only the medium. And as we clean the medium, we'll become one with the knower and the knowledge. Right? And then he goes even subtler. He says all cognition of thoughts and feelings, all vibhutis, every thought that I have stems from him. And he goes to the last, which is all feelings as well in this world is nothing but a manifestation of the Lord. So the only thing that is blocking divinity from existing and revolving around us 24/7 is our egos. Our ego is the one that is blocking it because we feel we are doing it. We feel we are creating it. But in reality, it is Bhagwanji that has powered this body, and Bhagwanji is saying, with my power, look for me. Right? Rituja, you have a question?
No, just like this is sort of like a moment when after every class we share our learnings. This is like Arjun sharing his he's doing his manan, and now he's sharing and his learning of what he's received as an information sort of. I think that might be.
I think that's a beautiful way to put it. That's a beautiful way to put it. That's absolutely what it is, right? Like he's got all this gyan in all these 8, 9 chapters, but you know now that he shared it in this form, we know that he's done the Nididhyasana. Right? That's a great way to put it. Well, what time is it? I think we have time for one more. Let me just check with Vinaz. Okay. I think Tuina is busy with Vedant. So she's saying, why don't we use this shloka as a brilliant segue to do takeaways as well? No, so we just read this shloka and Rituj made the most beautiful point.
Yeah.
Where he said that this entire shloka, where he's talking about Bhagwanji and all his aspects, is nothing but Arjun doing takeaways for Bhagwanji. Like as now he sings his praises, he's doing his takeaways as he understands the deeper self,
So cool.
which is beautiful segue. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll do takeaways. Yeah, you come. So anybody who'd like to go can start.
Yeah, I just wanted to call out on the factors initially we started off with, right? Drona, Bhishma, Jayadratha, and Karna consciousness. So how Arjuna now understands Drona and Bhishma consciousness as a desire and attachment. And even Bhishma, even though he sacrificed of his entire life for the crown, in spite of it, he is having like sattvic ego. And we had been having quite a bit of discussion, like being good, being good is like ultimate kind of thing initially, but then like why we will have to move away or move on from that also is coming out clearly now. That is not going to be sufficient. We'll have to go towards Nirgun Nirakar, right? That's the attitude of the God that we see it. So we'll have to, even the Sattvic ego, we can still be on the other side, um, other side of things. And the most powerful one is Jayatrada, which is the fear of death. So that suffering or that one gives like a lot of ego related items. So people tend to do a lot more things because of fear of death. And Karna's this thing is like attachment of zeal of performance or having jealous over anybody else outperforming us. Okay, those are like very powerful aspects which we'll have to overcome. So that's the takeaways from my end.
Perfect. That's amazing. Huh, Sanchita?
Yeah, I think for me, Shloks 35 kind of summed up, all that we've been learning, throughout our Gita journey. So one is, this whole pursuing of self-realization, and therefore, how important Swadhyay and Nam Jap is, because that's going to lead us, or bring discipline and lead us to, finally, realizing, that supreme consciousness. Second is, this whole gratitude, like, whatever is happening in and around us in life, I think we need to accept it with humility and gratitude that whatever happens is always happens for the best. And finally, surrender to him, knowing that, he is the be all and end all of everything. And therefore, only only if you're able to truly surrender to him will we be able to truly realize supreme consciousness, or truly realize Bhagwanji. So everything what we see around us is illusory, and it's all it's not permanent, right? It's everything is an illusion. So therefore, what we right now need to do is not question the principles, but try to implement the principles. And therefore, it becomes so much important to start practicing all of these, in our day-to-day life.
So I'll just rephrase what you said something earlier. Everything that happens because of his will. It is not coincidence, right? And everything that happens for our ultimate benefit. It's just that we don't see it in that moment as that, right? And it's only when we surrender to him fully will we find peace in all situations, right? Like I would say that is the sequence with which you can approach every situation or circumstance and be at peace.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the practice, because I know how attached we are to outcomes, right? Meeting outcomes and conversations and promotions and all of these other things that move us away. But yeah, who'd like to go next? Haji.
So for me, the first learning, which I think we had been speaking about, and that is an issue with me, is about ego, where we are talking about cleansing, and cleansing means actually trying to give away that ego, because it is, I think, that is when you will actually sense Bhagwanji sitting within you and be humble enough to understand that everything that's happening, even like me picking up the mouse, is his will and doing. That brings me back to what Rituj said, and I just loved it, that the more we cleanse ourselves and we through Nam Jap or remembering him, reading his books, every negative situation, like a traffic situation on a day-to-day basis, is sometimes really irritating. And at that time, if you don't feel that sense and you have God in you, that is like winning over a lot of your day-to-day activities. So that was a takeaway. And my last takeaway was that I think the quality I need to really work on, as I said, is the Jayadrat conscious, because that's the ego. But then that is again linked to Vishma conscious. Vishma is ego, and Jayadrat is fear of death. Fear of death means that someone else is better than me. To kill that thing, I have to first again work on my ego. So I think everything is centering down to working on my Vishwa consciousness.
100%, 100%. And that's the thing, na? That's why this ego's purpose is just to help us distinguish ourselves with each other. But we get so attached to these distinctions. And then we want to rise above other people's distinctions. But in reality, it's just as a way for all of us to be slightly separate from each other so that we can walk on the path, walk on our own paths to get out of this net. Who'd like to go next? Hanji Kavita.
Just continue with what Kakuli was saying, like, that Jayadra consciousness. I was thinking like in Vibhuti Yoga, we were studying the 4 sets. What is the endowment of God? The one is the fear, and fear. One of the factors is the fear. So now it is becoming very clear when Arjuna was like acting out of fear when he was seeing that cosmic group of God. In the beginning, how he felt, and then when the gratitude fill his heart, how he react. So I think I definitely need to work on that point of that Jayadra consciousness to kind of contemplate more on that. And it's such a beautiful explanation. Thank you.
Yeah, it's really interesting, na? Because when we come into sansar, we don't feel fear, we actually get attracted to it. We don't feel fear that, oh, this is a slippery slope, till we reach that slippery slope. And then we're like, oh, no, we need to take a step back. But yeah, as we work on ourselves, we'll be able to see that fear manifest far quicker. Purposeful fear, so to speak.
And it's all again from ego. So we have to kind of like fill the mind with God's name. So still a long way.
हो जाएगा. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I'll go next. So I think I'll echo what everyone has said. I also had the same learning as everyone, but I think last week and last to last week I had this discussion with Tuhina as well and everyone about why Sattvic Buddhi is not the ultimate, why self-realization is the ultimate goal here. And I think to a certain extent it does answer, because even the Sattvikta that we do leads us to some attachment, leads us to some ego that I am being good, I am doing this. And, again, that takes us away from our path of, just being blissful, just being aware, just being present. Right? We don't have to do a lot to attain the self-realization, just doing our duty. I think that is what I understood, that doing your duty is the most important thing. And the other aspects to be attached to it, whether it's sattvic, tamasic, those are not as important. Doing your duty to the utmost, understanding and your ability would be most important.
So in 2 chapters from now, in chapter 13, we will go very deep into understanding. The whole chapter is about gunas. And it's about understanding Sat, Raj, and Tam. So what you've shared right now is, I think, accurate from, and then in 13, we'll be able to go deeper in your understanding here on what is Sat, Raj, Tam, what is the purpose of each, and how do you behave in, like, the whole crux is these exist only at the bhav level. That means the intention and emotion with which you do an action. So every action can be a sattvic action or a purposeful action, because it sits at the bhav level. So
everything is imbued with those three.
Yeah.
But just to add on to that, Smita, and like Abhinav said, we're all in the right space right now. But just to remember, okay, just to show the path forward, okay. Doing your duty is absolute prerequisite to anything else. अगर हम वो भी नहीं कर सकते तो there is no, like this, that's step 1. Okay, step 1, absolute necessary step 1, without which step 2 will not occur. However, karma yoga alone will not lead you to moksha. Why will it not lead you to moksha? What is moksha? End of the day, it is all up here. It is all a problem of perception. It is a problem of agyan. Right? We have agyan. Agyan किससे जाएगा? ज्ञान से जाएगा. और किसी चीज से नहीं जाएगा. It's a matter of knowing or not knowing. Okay? And doing, it is not a matter of doing. So karma yoga will not lead you to gyan. It will not lead you to liberation. Ultimately, what leads you to liberation is removal of that gyan, removal of that agyan. And then the gyan shines forth. Okay? But for that agyan to get removed, doing your duty and doing karma yoga is the most basic piece, because that basic piece is what cleanses us and what gets us to that stage of being able to finally remove that agyan. So it's not enough, but it is an absolutely essential requirement to be able to move to the next level. Yeah?
I think I'm left. So just to take from where you just said, we're also called human beings. We're not called human doings. So in the sense, it's about being rather than doing. So I think that is one thing. My learnings from the class have been that, first of all, when we started, what a lot of people already said this about rising above my ego and attachment, and the fact that I'm equipped with all the tools that are within me to deal with it, and that has been given to me by God. So that is, I need to have that faith, and I need to tackle that. And then getting over the Jayadrat consciousness. I like the way you explained about the killing aspect of how when I have a discussion with people, I have that ego that I want to prove my point. and put my point across and be heard, not realizing that it's important to even listen and to hear the other side, because the beauty of that is that when you're saying what you believe in, you already know that. But when you see hear another perception or another opinion, it's an opportunity to learn and grow from it, because that's a way of looking at things in a different way. So that way of killing your own opinion and listening to the other side and actively listening to it, not passively, and hearing it and killing your ego and uh, learning from it is something I need to work on. And I think that was very well explained. And it's all rooted in my ego. And the fact of Uttam and Shresht, that difference is something I learned about how um, to be Uttam rather than Shresht, again, because of the ego of competing with others and just trying to be a better version of what I was the previous moment, and just competing with myself rather than, like they say that, like a horse, when they compete in a race, they have those blinders on. So keep those blinders on and just focus on yourself and not be concerned what's happening around, and just give it your best. And the singleness of purpose, that's something which is very important, to have a focus and give it your all to that purpose. And that is, of course, Bhagavad Prapti and just working on the Gita principles. And then only can you fully apply it and do manan about it. And then only you'll be able to, not even before applying it, to receive it. So as to be, I think we mentioned in even chapter 10 about, I think, Buddha Kesha or something about how, being able to receive and being that student. So fully receiving it and applying it. So yeah, those are my benefits.
Great. Buddha by the way, is the person who conquers sleep, who's conquered his delusion. That's the meaning of Buddha. Okay, great.
Fantastic. 11:53.
So, Ritu, do you want to do the closing shlokas as well, please?
Yes, please. Thank you. Just open the document. 1 second. Sorry.
I think when Rituj will be doing the closing shlokas, I want all of us to do this at our own place, in our own this thing. It's very important. Don't just listen, actually actively say it. And we should do it irrespective of who's doing the invocation shlokas. Because one, we are invoking it within ourselves, we become present to it and be very aware of the meaning. That's the only way to really invoke the divinity in these mantras. And when we do it day after day after day after day in every class, there is no way we will not remember it. It will automatically commit itself to our memory. So we just have to follow the practice. And we anyway sit here for those few minutes listening in, might as well practice, right? Better productivity. Let's go ahead.
Om Sarvesham Swastirbhavatu Sarvesham Shantirbhavatu Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramayaha Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschit Dukh Bhag Bhavet. Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om. Om. Om.
Narayan, Narayan, everyone.
Narayan, Narayan. Have a great week ahead.
Thank you.
Did how many? 38.
Bye.
I've done one more. Jल्दी हो गया.
ये stop कर दे.